Hello, lovely lady. How are you?
Good.
We're matchy jeans and black today.
Oh, perfect. Good to see you.
Mwah.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. This has been a long time coming, my friend.
I know.
So Stefania is the first ever model I met in the industry, which was how many years ago now?
Oh my gosh. So it was really your first modelling job as well that we met on.
Yeah.
It was your first big modelling gig.
It was Gok Wham, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, that was my first ever big job, was Gok. I had done fiddly little things in Canberra, but nothing substantial. Oh, there's two cameras.
So you hadn't previously done anything substantial apart from Gok,
and
Tajay back in the day.
Target in 2013. Tajay.
I remember we couldn't actually keep a straight face when he was asking us to do it in front of the cameras.
Yeah.
Do you recall that?
I do.
Good times. But I have seen you build an empire over these past couple of years, going from, campaigns with BERLEI, just recently with Running Bear, being one of the faces of the MYER beauty campaign.
Oh, yes.
And then, not to mention the work that you've been doing with Dita Von Teese. That is incredible. So, how's your experience been? Over the past 3 years, I guess, do you want to walk us through how you originally got signed and, your experience so far in the industry?
Oh, my experience in the industry. Oh, it's been so turbulent. All my life has been, actually, these past years. So I actually started modelling when I was 16, but I started doing it myself. So I paid a photographer to shoot me, and I got 6 or 8 images.
Okay, so correctly. Like a test shoot to start off with?
Yeah, so a test shoot. And then he told me about this website called Model Mayhem.
Yeah, I have heard Model Mayhem being mentioned.
Have you been on Model Mayhem?
I haven't actually, but I've heard it mentioned in quite a few of the conversations that I've had with models on this episode, off-duty models.
Yeah.
A lot of them go on there and try to find photographers and work initially, and that's kind of how they get started. So
that's definitely how I started building up my portfolio and building up images. So I would get on there and I would contact photographers, contact makeup artists, hairstylists, stylists, and just sort of organize my own shoots.
Wow.
So I initially paid for the first one, and then I just started doing collaborations.
Yep.
I
so
still
time
call
for
myself
print.
a model, even though time for print.
Yep.
I call them TFP shoots.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I actually didn't know what it was originally, so I had to Google what TFP stood for. So it's time for print. You're exchanging your time ultimately with a photographer or a stylist for them to be able to use your images.
Yeah,
so
to create some images. So I did that for 4 years, and the only kind of job I remember getting in that time was a fiddly little one for some stock images for the public service in Canberra, a couple $100, but I was like, I'm getting somewhere.
Yes, all this work that I've put in is getting me somewhere. Stock images, they're to be used, so can't discount that.
And then I finally moved to Melbourne at the start of 2013.
Yeah.
Started doing a lot of work with fashion photographer Peter Coulson, who's got a really good name in the industry, and he sort of took me under his wing, and I stayed with him and his wife for a little bit of time until I found my own place and found my feet. And he had an agency at the time who actually sent me to the Target casting.
Oh, okay. And I have actually shot with Peter, and I do recall you
saying I do remember,
this. Yeah. Okay. So he's the one that sent you to the casting with Target. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
And I got it, and I was so excited. I couldn't believe it, and it was, as you know, a bunch of national TV commercials, which is such a big job to get, especially as, your first proper modelling job.
And considering you kind of didn't technically have an agent at that point in time?
No, he was definitely running an agency, Vicious Models, and they had all these cool, quirky models on their books. And it was being run by him and Natasha Verkijk, who's a model as well.
Yeah, I do know of Natasha, yep.
So that's how I got that one.
Okay, interesting. And from there, you've kind of progressed and now landed these really, really big campaigns. And in the midst of all of that, you created Drop the Plus.
Yeah.
So are you able to give me an idea of how and when in the process you actually...
just doing a little check.
No, do your thing, girls!
One of my eyes is just half closed and I'm like, ugh, okay. Yeah. So Drop the Plus just was so accidental. I really didn't plan for anything to come of it. I was just coming out in support of another woman who was sort of getting bullied for having said, you know, the plus size label's ridiculous.
Okay.
And we shouldn't be labeling, you know, size 12, 14 models as plus size. It just doesn't make sense. And she had a picture of Laura Wells.
Yep.
Who you would describe as just, you know,
quite athletic almost.
Athletic, quite slim.
Yep.
And because of the modelling industry, she's described as plus size.
Yep.
And so she put this post up and she got a lot of backlash for it. And I thought, well, that's ridiculous. I mean, the plus size label is ridiculous. It doesn't make sense labelling women who are smaller than the average Australian woman as plus size.
Yep.
And it just sends out a warped idea of what normality is. Because the modelling industry has such a huge influence on the public.
Yep.
Like huge. And so many young girls look up to it. And when they're using words and labels that don't make sense and are very misleading and do warp the idea, like I said, of what normality is, I think it can be really damaging for the minds of especially young girls that look up to the industry.
Yep, okay.
And so I just came out and I said, look, I do agree. I think the label is damaging. It could lead to all kinds of issues for young girls growing up, and words can be very powerful and they can really have an effect on the way we think. Language really does shape the way we think.
Yep, and the perception of images and things like that. Okay.
I know I've repeated myself a couple of times, but anyway, so I just came out just in support of her with a picture of me naked, which isn't abnormal for me. I'm, you know, naked most of the time. So I came out naked, holding my boobs, and I had written on my chest, "I'm a model," with a full stop, and that was the opening caption to the image. So I accompanied that image with "I'm a model," full stop, and then unfortunately in modelling industry, if you're above an Australian size 8, you're automatically labelled plus size.
Okay.
And then I was saying how I don't find that empowering and how I don't agree with it, and, you know, I support AJ in what she's saying.
Yep.
And I just created the hashtag drop the plus. It sort of just came to me and I thought, oh, that sounds catchy.
Yep.
Chucked it at the end, didn't think much of it. And then I think it would have been like 3 weeks or a month later, all of a sudden, the whole thing just blows up out of proportion and every media outlet's reporting on it. And drop
were
the plus
you
just
the
became
main
huge.
kind of face, or was the individual that you were supporting, like, who was
we sort of
in
both
partnership?
spearheaded it, I
Okay.
suppose.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
sort of both supported each other in the whole thing and were both the face of it.
Okay.
That image though of me with "I'm a model" written on my chest sort of did become really iconic with the whole drop the plus.
Okay, yeah.
But in most reports
It's what
and
people
things,
associate most with it.
yeah,
Okay,
was that sort of image. But then the story behind it is AJ and I.
Okay.
And our fight for just
Dropping
calling
the
a
plus.
model a model.
Yeah.
Because that is our profession.
And is there a particular point at, you know, you're saying, because you and I are on the smaller scale of plus. Like, if we, you know, using that terminology, looking at from an industry perspective, when you go past the 16 plus point, do you believe there's a space there to be calling people plus? Or what are your thoughts on
Well,
that?
I think it's really up to an individual. If a model wants to call herself plus size,
Yeah.
go for it. I don't have an issue. I guess it's when the industry automatically just throws the label on a model.
Yeah. When they haven't even asked for the
Yeah,
label themselves,
yeah.
and it's just a across the board
But
generalisation.
sort of size 16, 18, I mean, that's well above average size.
Yeah.
And I don't have that much of an issue with it when it comes to that sort of sizing. But I just want to point out that we don't call size 6 or 4, size 4 or 6 models minus size.
Okay.
You know, they're just known as models.
Straight size, ultimately, is that?
Yeah.
They're categorised as that generally, as straight size. You have the plus and then you have the straight.
Yeah, well, that word sort of came about in response to the whole plus size thing.
Oh, really?
I think so, because, you know, we're discussing these new breed of models came in that weren't size 2, 4 or 6, and they started getting labelled plus size, and then in order to differentiate the slimmer ones, I think straight came about, because I'd never heard that term before that.
Prior
to
to
it was
the
just like
whole
a
drop the
model,
plus.
and, you know,
Okay.
this idea of what a model is very tall, very skinny. You know, that's a model. That's the idea of a model in our head. That's what we're brought up believing a model is.
Yeah, perception.
And, you know, at the outside world, I don't think really ever hears the term straight size, but they are continuously hearing the term plus size in the media and on social media as well.
Okay. And with, like, you say, you know, we shouldn't be labelled, we should just be a model. How do you feel about the word curvy model? Because I almost feel like they took out plus and then slid in like a curvy
I use
curvy
the term
board.
curvy as well.
Yeah.
I suppose the thing with curvy is it just doesn't have those connotations.
Okay.
And it doesn't mean bigger than, whereas plus implies that there's a norm. There's a range that is considered what is the average or the norm, and then there's bigger than plus.
Okay, and you're outside
and then
of
you're
that
outside
norm.
of that, because plus, you know,
because you can be like you can be smaller but still curvy.
Yeah.
So it's
So I say curvier.
okay.
It's sort of the word I use. But even that, you know, once again, it's labeling, but I just don't think it has the same sort of connotations, and it doesn't, like I said, imply bigger than a norm.
Okay. Do you feel that you, not you specifically, but people in the industry can portray body positivity without having to get starkers? Or
for sure, definitely. Because I mean, seeing a model of models of varying sizes wearing outfits and clothes that you wouldn't normally see showcased on that particular size or that particular body shape speaks volumes.
Yeah.
You don't have to get naked to say, hey, look, here's my body, because your body's still there. It's just, you know, you're wearing different things on it.
Okay.
And does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. The fact that, you know, they're wearing stuff that previously, I guess, and particularly with where the fashion world is industry.
On a person that size.
Yeah.
And it's such a big platform as well nowadays with social media. You can reach such a wide audience and say, hey, look how hot I look in this outfit. You know, that you wouldn't normally see on someone my size.
Yeah, and considering where the actual fashion world is going, extending sizing range, etc. Whereas previously we were forced to shop in, you know, the plus size areas of shops, which weren't generally the nicest places to be shopping. I don't know if you ever went, you know, you were ever at that point in sizing, but
well, no,
okay,
no. So you know, that's hard for me to speak on behalf of the women that are, you know, size 16, 18 that were forced to shop in a different category in shopping malls or shopping centres. And when Drop the Plus did happen, there was such an overwhelming amount of women contacting and tweeting and posting about how they were so ashamed of always having to go to a different section and often a different shop altogether.
To be able to actually get, you know, dress stylishly, etc.
And then what do you do when you're shopping with your girlfriends that are several sizes smaller than you? Yeah. You know, you can't just go to the same shop, because often you're in a completely different category or shopping centre altogether to have to do your shopping.
To be able to, how amazing is it how far the industry has come? Like big brands that, you know, I'm not going to go mentioning names now, but like the fact that, you know, big brands are finally catching on and going, hey, these women want to look stylish too.
Yeah.
Why don't we extend our, you know, sizing range to be able to cater for these women? And it's almost like a no-brainer considering how much like of the population actually sits within that sizing range. Why didn't they do it earlier, my friend?
Yeah, I know. And I hear this thing like, oh, well, you have to change the way it sits and this sort of stuff as you get into bigger sizes. And I'm just thinking, well, great, just tweak it a little bit as the sizes get bigger. I mean, you don't have to create an entirely new outfit.
It's really not that hard, is it?
I don't think it is. I think it's excuses.
I don't know, like, we're not designers, but...
And I also feel like there's so much pressure as someone that is body positive and influential to write something inspirational every time you post. Can I be the one to ask you?
Yes, friend. Oh, I'm getting questioned back.
You're going to get interrogated. No, don't worry. It's funny because if I went back and I was more self-aware and in the current state I am in, I don't think I would have shared it. Like, I just didn't know what was real and what was coming in my mind, what was in my mind. And they saw me as quite dangerous and out of control. So they actually had to resort to calling the police.
Wow.
But the thing with mental illness is it can hit at any time and it can hit anyone.
Yeah.
And you might think you've got your shit under control, but I think everyone has the potential to end up in a state like that with the right circumstances.
Yeah.